May the Lord bless you as we continue to set Him before us, becoming more unshakable through looking at Psalm 19, which is a brief psalm but very powerful. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of His hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge. There is no speech or language where their voice is not heard. Their voice goes out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. In the heavens God has pitched a tent for the sun. It is like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, like a champion rejoicing to run his course. It rises at one end of the heavens and makes its circuit to the other. Nothing is hidden from its heat. The law of the Lord is perfect, restoring the soul. The statutes of the Lord are trustworthy, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, giving joy to the heart. The commands of the Lord are radiant, giving light to the eyes. The fear of the Lord is pure, enduring forever. The decrees of the Lord are firm, and all of them are righteous. They are more precious than gold, than much pure gold. They are sweeter than honey from the honeycomb. By them your servant is warned. In keeping them there is great reward. But who can discern their own errors? Forgive my hidden faults. Keep your servant also from willful sins. May they not rule over me. Then I will be blameless, innocent of great transgression. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. So in Psalm 14, whether David intended this or not, he spoke of three ways in which God reveals himself and his character and nature to the world of all of humanity. First, through the creation of the heavens, and secondly, through the moral law that was given to Moses, and thirdly, through the law of conscience that he's put within every human being. And so just take a look at that for a moment. The heavens declare the glory of God, said David. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they display knowledge. There is no voice or language where their speech is not heard. Their voice goes out to all of the earth. And we know that the ancients in every culture around the world, they would look up at the beauty of the stars and the movements of the planets and the moon and the cycles of the moon, and they'd see the sunrise and the sunset, and they knew that there was a creator behind it all. They didn't know the name of God they revealed himself to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the descendants of Abraham, and then they didn't know about Messiah maybe until missionaries came, but they knew that there was a creator, and they would worship the Great Spirit. So in Romans 1, though, it's interesting because it's pointing to our modern day, where we've taken that very clear evidence of the creator of the heavens. And interestingly, what we know now really should point more to God as the creator. Kepler in the early 1600s discovered that the planets move with mathematic precision, and he codified that into equations that are still accurate today. So the planets move like clockwork, and that suggests design and purpose and a mind behind it. And there's all these laws of physics and astrophysics: the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, the electromagnetic force, the gravitational force, the cosmological constant. All these forces that are laws that govern the whole universe. And the existence of laws always presupposes a lawmaker. And we know there is this divine lawmaker. But in Romans 1, it addresses how humanity has chosen to look away from this evidence and actually suppress the evidence. And it says this: the wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of men who suppress the truth in their wickedness, since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being evidenced through what God has made, so that men are without excuse. For although they knew God, they neither glorified him as God nor gave thanks to him, but their thinking became futile, and their foolish hearts were darkened. So it was a willful turning away from the Great Spirit. Why? Because basically mankind in fallen state always resorts to, I don't want you ruling over me. And the best way for me to do that and reconcile it in my brain is just pretend you don't exist. And so I can be my own little g God in charge of my own little domain here without your interference, Creator God. So there's the creation that's speaking. Will we listen? I hope so. I see God every time I open my eyes and look around. I see the composer behind a symphony, a beautiful symphony called Nature. Secondly, though, God gave his moral law. He gave the law to Moses. You know, we've all heard of the Ten Commandments. And I'm not going to go through them, but I'll put them there on the screen. But the moral law, it shows that we are created in God's image. We're beings that have a sense of conscience, of rightness and wrongness, that we, differentiated from the animals, can choose to do good or evil. When a dog, chases a cat or, pees on the floor, he's not making a moral decision that takes him into being an evil dog. He's just doing dog things. Anyway, God gave the moral law and the commands. And the purpose of the law is to codify sin. We all have sin. In another place, the scripture says we all, like sheep, have gone astray. We've all gone our own way. We've wandered off the course. And so in order to show us all that we do have sin, God gave the moral law to give us guidelines, which are good, but also, let me put it this way. A normal person, a thinking, caring person, without any law, without any speed limit signs, would know that you shouldn't go through a school zone when there's children ready to cross. You shouldn't blow through there at 80 miles an hour, even if there's not a speed limit sign. You know, because you respect life and care about people, that you're going to be very cautious. You don't need a sign to say that, but we do need a sign because there's evil in the world and people that don't care. And so if there's no sign, the person could say, I didn't know. But if there's a speed limit sign and the police clocks you going 60 miles over the speed limit, you have no argument. You're guilty. God's given the moral law not because deep down humans didn't know stealing your neighbor's stuff was wrong, or stealing their wife was wrong, or murdering someone without cause was wrong. People do things in the dark for a reason. They know. But by giving the law, what was sin all along became evident, and we can't defend ourselves. I didn't know. No, he said you shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. Don't steal your neighbor's stuff. In fact, don't even lust for or covet your neighbor's stuff. And Jesus even raised the bar from the moral law of the Ten Commandments in the Sermon on the Mount. He said, hey, even if you look at a woman with lust in your eyes, you've committed adultery in your heart. Even if you have hatred for your neighbor, in your heart you've already killed them. So he raised the bar. So God is speaking to us through the beauty of his creation, the power of the universe all around us. He's speaking through the moral law given in the scripture as a whole. And then he also has given every human being this thing called conscience. We are amazing beings made in the image of God. We have self-awareness, consciousness, free will. We have conscience, or sense of right and wrong. Every human being has a sense of justice to some extent. We may differ about the details, but we all have this conscience. And what we see here in the end of this psalm, I think is beautiful, and I think this psalm tells me that David has grown a little bit older, and he's now not speaking so much about his blamelessness, but listen again to what he says at the end. Who can discern their own errors? Forgive my hidden faults. Keep your servant also from willful sins. May they not rule over me. Then I will be blameless, innocent of great transgression. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. So here is a man in love with God, expressing, God, I love you with my heart, but I stumble And sometimes I do wrong that I don't even know I'm doing. I offend in ways I'm transgressing and didn't know. And then there's those willful sins. And oh Lord, will you keep me from those willful sins? You know, Jesus said, deliver us from evil and lead us not into temptation. That was part of the Lord's Prayer. And I think it's a good prayer. It's a prayer that is humble. We're aware of our brokenness. We're aware of our tendencies towards wrongness at times. And we say, therefore, God, oh, deliver me. And God, may the words of my mouth not hurt people. May they bless. May they be words of peace and goodness and always truth. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart, by the way, Jesus said, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth will speak. So we want good stuff in there. May they be pleasing in your sight. And so ultimately, this whole thing comes down, I think, who's at the center again? Who's at the core? What are we fixing our eyes on? Is God at the center of our universe, or are we at the center of it? Do we think the whole thing revolves around us? No, no, it revolves around Him. And then to whom, like, who do we want to please? Do we want to live our lives on this stage of this world trying to gain the applause and the favor of this or that group? Or do we want the meditations of our heart and the words of our mouth to be pleasing to the Almighty Creator?